At my brother's wedding, I walked in uninvited, then played a recording that exposed years of lies, cheating, and fraud. The FBI arrived before dessert. My father went into hiding, and my brother was in handcuffs before the cake was cut. That was the day I took everything back. At 2:17 a.m., my name showed up in a federal fraud investigation on a crime I didn't commit. And the best part? My own family put me there. That was the moment everything shifted. I wasn't shocked that my family betrayed me. No, that part was expected. What shook me was how perfectly they had planned it, how carefully they'd planted the seeds, how thoroughly they'd erased their own fingerprints from the mess. I'm Avery Collins, the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who didn't get invited to the Christmas yacht trip but still sent $2,000 when Mom said the furnace was broken, the one who covered Damien's DUI with hush money and made sure the papers never saw the dash cam footage. But apparently, I was also the perfect fall girl. When the Collins Foundation's name hit headlines for misappropriation of funds, I wasn't even watching the news. I was asleep in my one-bedroom apartment, 2,800 miles from Charleston, when my phone buzzed with a message from a blocked number. Check the Foundation's quarterly report. Page 14, you're listed as sole author. I opened the file with shaking hands, and there it was. My digital signature on a $440,000 transfer, marked as community outreach. Outreach, right? Outreach to a luxury real estate deal in the Caymans, a deal I'd never seen, never approved. My family hadn't just framed me. They'd erased themselves, and to top it all off, an email from the family lawyer. Please be advised, your presence is no longer welcome at Damien Collins's wedding on September 3rd. It wasn't just betrayal, it was an execution. But I wasn't about to go quietly. They wanted to bury me under their lies. So I started digging up their graves. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My email lit up with notifications from press inquiries, law firm notices, and worst of all, my own name trending on a niche finance blog with the headline, Avery Collins, the fall of a quiet billionaire heiress. I wasn't a billionaire. Not even close, but that's what the world believed. Because my last name, Collins, still carried weight, thanks to a brand built on legacy, not integrity. And Damien? He'd done it. He'd finally rid himself of the inconvenient sister with receipts and boundaries. I sat in my apartment staring at the dim glow of my laptop screen. Then I looked around. Cracked tile near the kitchen sink, a pile of overdue paperwork, my dog sleeping beside me, and realized something. I've spent my entire life cleaning up their mess. And now they've tossed me out with the trash. So I did the one thing they never expected. I stood up. I grabbed a box from my closet, a fireproof safe. Not because I thought I'd need it, but because something in me always knew this day would come. Inside were folders, names, dates, bank stubs, copies of text messages. Damien once joked, Avery could run the CIA with how organized she is. Well, guess what, Damien? I just might. I made 3 calls that night, not to friends, not to lawyers, to people who owed me. The first? Noah Reyes. Cybersecurity analyst with a grudge against my brother, and a skill set built on uncovering digital dirt. He answered on the second ring. Avery Collins. Wow. Thought you forgot about me. I need you to help me prove I didn't steal $500,000, he whistled. Damn. All right. Where do we start? The second call was riskier. Detective Carrie Voss, Charleston PD. I helped her bury a scandal 2 years ago involving my cousin's insider trading. She said she owed me a favor. You calling to cash in? She asked. Let's just say I'm done covering tracks that aren't mine. I gave her a name. Whitaker Holdings. A shell company tied to the Foundation's missing funds. A company Damien conveniently forgot to disclose in his engagement agreement. The third? That was personal. My father. He answered after 6 rings. What do you want? The truth. Why me? Because you don't fight back, Avery. You never have. Click. He hung up. That was all I needed to hear. The next morning, I flew to Charleston. Used a burner card to book my flight. Rented a car under an old alias I hadn't touched since college. Checked into a motel off the highway, the kind where no one asks questions, and the walls are thin enough to hear regrets. Noah met me there with his laptop, a bag of protein bars, and a burner phone. "Let's break some legacies," he said. Over the next 36 hours we went deep. Pulled metadata from emails I'd supposedly sent, cross-referenced times and IP locations, retrieved deleted Slack messages from Damien's startup office, and the jackpot, a server backup left unprotected by a former intern. It had everything. Voice memos. Wire drafts. A recording of Damien saying, "Make it look like Avery did it. She's already the ghost of the family. No one will question it." At 3 a.m., Noah looked up from his screen. "You realize you could bury him with this?" "No," I said. "I'm going to do worse. I'm going to make him speak the truth, in front of everyone." I picked up the wedding invitation they accidentally sent me. I scanned the details. September 3rd, Whitehall Estate, private ceremony. Good. They wanted a perfect show? I'd give them one. Avery opens her hotel drawer, pulls out a black flash drive, marked Witness, and loads it with everything. She places it in a velvet ring box. Cut to Damien laughing at his rehearsal dinner, clinking champagne glasses with Charlotte's father, unaware that his world is about to collapse. On camera. They expected a toast. What they got was a confession, broadcasted to 100 high society guests with champagne in their hands and secrets on their tongues. The morning of the wedding, the Charleston sky was overcast. A storm was coming, literally and otherwise. Avery, dressed in a tailored black dress with hidden pockets, stepped out of her motel, flash drive tucked inside a velvet ring box. Her hair was pinned up, her eyes sharp. She looked less like a disgraced heiress and more like someone who'd come to bury a legacy. She parked 2 blocks from Whitehall Estate, the sprawling colonial mansion where Damien's wedding was about, to be streamed live to Charlotte Whitaker's thousands of political followers. Security swarmed the gates, state troopers, private guards, and cameras ready for PR gold. But Avery didn't approach the front. She took the garden path. Inside, guests, mingled in white linen and silk, sipping chilled rosé. Damien was holding court like always, laughing with congressmen and shaking hands with people who thought they knew who he was. Avery entered through the back, posing as a wedding planner's assistant. All she needed was a clipboard and confidence. No one questioned her. She walked the hallway toward the AV booth like she belonged, because in a way she did. This was her family too. They just never treated her like it. Upstairs she found the media technician, young, flustered, distracted by Wi-Fi errors. "Bride wants a last-minute surprise montage added during the toast," she said. From her sister. Big emotional moment. "What? File?" "Right here." She smiled, handing him the flash drive. He plugged it in without hesitation. Avery left before the loading bar hit 10%. Downstairs, the ceremony began. Soft piano, rows of chairs. Damien at the altar, beaming like the fraud. He was. Charlotte walked in on cue, dazzling in ivory lace, unaware that the man waiting for her had lied about everything, including who he'd spent a weekend with in Mexico last November. Avery stood at the back, unnoticed, behind a column. Her phone buzzed. One word from Noah. Live. After the vows, the MC announced, "Before we cut the cake, the bride's sister has prepared a video surprise." The lights dimmed. The guests turned toward the massive LED screen. What began as soft music and childhood photos suddenly glitched. Then came the footage. Damien, drunk, in his office, bragging to his COO. Avery? She's disposable. Quiet little accountant girl doesn't even know she signed the offshore deal. Let her take the fall. The room froze. Avery stepped forward. She didn't run. She walked to the center of the aisle. Like a second bride, Damien's face turned gray. Charlotte gasped, her veil trembling. What is this?" she whispered. Avery's voice cut the silence. "It's everything you never wanted them to know. Every lie, every forged signature, every wire transfer. And the part you'll love, Charlotte, he spent foundation funds on hotel rooms for you and your sister." Gasps. The screen now displayed screenshots of banking transfers, emails with hidden names in BCCs. Damien's voice over and over again saying things like, "No one checks her files. She's just grateful we let her in the room." Charlotte slapped Damien. Her father stormed toward the AV booth screaming to shut it down, but Avery wasn't done. "And before you say I'm crashing your wedding, remember you uninvited me." She turned toward the shocked guests. "I didn't come for revenge. I came for truth, and it's been paid in full." Then came sirens. Outside, FBI agents stepped onto the lawn. One of them nodded to Avery as they passed. The Whitakers panicked. Guests scattered. Damien lunged forward, furious, humiliated, exposed. "You ruined everything," he shouted. "No," Avery said calmly. "You did. I just hit play." Agents cuffed Damien on the edge of the rose garden. Charlotte stood frozen, mascara running, watching her perfect future implode. Avery walked past her and whispered, "You dodged a bullet. Trust me." As Avery walked out of the estate, the clouds finally opened and rain poured down. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She got into her car, soaked, heart pounding, and smiled for the first time in years. But her phone buzzed one more time. A new message. "This isn't over. Dad." She stared at the screen, then deleted it, and drove. They thought it was over when Damien got arrested. But the real puppeteer wasn't my brother. It was the man who taught him how to lie. My father. 48 hours after the wedding, the headlines exploded. Golden groom arrested at altar in family fraud scandal. Political alliance shattered by Collins family collapse. The media tore Damien apart. Charlotte's family filed civil lawsuits. Investigators raided the Collins Foundation headquarters. And yet, Avery didn't feel safe, because the text from her father still echoed in her mind. This isn't over. Back in Seattle, Avery returned to her apartment expecting silence. Instead, she found her front door ajar. Her dog was safe, but the apartment was trashed. Her safe? Open. Her backups? Gone. Laptop? Smashed. But the one thing she kept on her? The secondary drive, hidden in her wallet. They wanted to erase everything, but they forgot who they raised. Avery learned to hide evidence before she learned to ride a bike. She made a call to Noah. "They broke in," she said. "I'll trace the signal," he replied. "No need," she said, staring at the business card left on her shattered coffee table. It was black, embossed, her father's personal stationery. He left a calling card. Harold Collins, her father, sitting in a private study surrounded by men in suits. He's calm, sipping bourbon, watching the wedding fallout unfold on a TV. "We made her. We can break her." "What if she goes public again?" his lawyer asks. "Then, we make sure the next story isn't about Damien's crime," Harold says. "It's about her instability." Avery receives a certified letter, psychiatric evaluation request, filed by the Collins family lawyer, claiming paranoid delusions and obsessive fixation with fabricated financial misconduct. They were coming at her with gaslighting warfare, not just to ruin her name, to declare her legally unfit, so she couldn't testify, so she'd lose control of her assets, so she'd be the villain of her own story. She calls Detective Carrie Voss again. "You said you'd return the favor. I need one more." "What is it?" "I want a subpoena for a document buried in the Collins vault. 1987 Trust Amendment. It's not just about money anymore. It's about proof my father forged my signature and stole my mother's legacy." Flashback. Avery was 17. Her mother had just died. Harold made her sign standard estate paperwork through tears. Now she knows. Those were power of attorney documents and trust modifications. He rewrote history that day. "They stole my future while I was still grieving," she says. And they did it smiling. With Carrie's help, Avery gains temporary access to the Collins legal vault, a restricted archive in a Charleston courthouse. She flies in under a sealed alias. She wears a wig, glasses, a different name. She enters the basement-level archive, with 2 hours to find one folder that changes everything. The file, Collins Trust 1987, Amendment B. And inside, her forged signature, dated one day after her mother's funeral. a clause revoking her inheritance rights unless deemed mentally stable by the Collins family board, and a secret life insurance payout, $2.4 million, signed over to a company owned by Harold. Suddenly a sound. Footsteps. Avery hides behind a filing cabinet. A man in a janitor's uniform walks by. But when he passes, he glances straight at her hiding spot and smiles. He keeps walking. Doesn't say a word. She knows then. They knew she'd come. She grabs the files, photographs every page, and escapes out the fire exit. By the time she reaches the street, her burner phone rings. Unknown number. "You've got about 24 hours before this gets worse," her father says. "You don't want to play this game with me, Avery." "You taught me the game, Dad," she answers. "And I play to win." Avery gets into her car and drives straight to the press. But outside the building, flashing lights, FBI agents. One of them holds up a badge. "Avery Collins, you're wanted for questioning regarding obstruction and stolen federal documents." She stares at them. No panic, no fear, just the truth in her bag and a storm behind her eyes. "Then let's talk," she says. "They tried to arrest me with the same system. I once protected them from, but this time, I wasn't the fixer. I was the fire." Avery sat in a gray government interview room. No windows. One flickering overhead light. A ticking clock on the wall. The kind meant to unravel your nerves 1 second at a time. Across from her sat Agent Renner, expression unreadable, file in hand. "You entered a secured federal archive using falsified credentials. I entered a vault containing evidence of my family's criminal empire," Avery replied calmly. "And you took documents that weren't yours. They were forged using my name. That makes them mine." Renner flipped a page. "You also distributed confidential files to journalists, political aides, and 3 foreign watchdog organizations in the last 24 hours. "Good," Avery said. "Now you're updated too." She slid a small recorder across the table. "Everything you need is on this, including a wiretap of my father bribing a former senator with foundation funds. Go ahead, press play." Renner stared at her. Then he pressed it. Harold's voice crackled through the speaker. "This isn't about charity, it's leverage. She signs off or we leak her affair. No one questions Avery. No one. She's weak, but she's loyal. And if she doesn't sign, then she disappears. We make sure of it." Renner paused the recorder, looked up. "You've been gathering this for how long?" 7 years, Avery answered. "I just never had the guts to use it. Until now." Noah, back in Seattle, decrypting the last remaining files from the foundation server. What he finds changes everything. He calls Avery mid-interrogation. "We have a bigger problem," he says. "Your dad isn't just running the foundation fraud. He's using it as a front, laundering campaign money through Charlotte's family super PAC, which means if you blow this open, it won't just take down your family. It'll burn half the state's political web to the ground." Avery looks at Agent Renner, who's now listening carefully. She holds the phone up. "Still think I'm the criminal here?" Renner ends the interrogation. "You walk out of here. You're on your own. No protection. No immunity." "Then let me walk," she says. "Because I'm not looking for immunity. I'm looking for justice." Avery walks out of the federal building into a media frenzy. Cameras flash. Reporters shout her name. She stops, pulls a piece of paper from her coat pocket. It's a statement. Short, sharp, deadly. The Collins Foundation has knowingly funneled millions through illegal donations, fake grants, and offshore tax shelters. I have evidence. It is already in the hands of international regulators. I was their scapegoat. But I refuse to stay buried. You wanted a story? This is just the first chapter. She drops the mic, literally, and walks away. Harold Collins watching from a private estate, the press conference playing on mute. A glass of scotch in his hand, his knuckles white with rage. "She's not scared of us anymore," he mutters. His advisor steps forward. "We can still discredit her. Mental health records. That therapist. She saw—" "Burn it," Harold snaps. "Burn everything." Back in Seattle, Avery returns to Noah's apartment where they've built a war room of evidence. Sticky notes, flash drives, safe deposit keys, even a sealed envelope from her late mother, postmarked 2005. She opens it. Inside is a note. If you ever feel like the world is lying to you, trust your silence. It holds the truth louder than their voices ever will. Mom tears prick Avery's eyes, but she steadies herself. She knew, she whispers. She always knew. Avery prepares the last data packet for international release. But just as she clicks send, her laptop powers down, a blackout. Then, a single phone buzzes in the dark, unknown number. She answers. You still think you're in control? Her father's voice rasps. You're not even close. Then another call. This time, it's Charlotte. I know what they did, she says. I want out, and I want revenge. Are you in? Avery exhales. Send me the proof. Let's burn them all. The Collins family built an empire on silence and secrets, but their biggest mistake, teaching me how to listen. The call with Charlotte Whitaker wasn't just unexpected, it was dangerous. She was still legally Damien's wife, still tied to the political dynasty Avery had just exposed. But her voice wasn't trembling. It was cold, calculated. They used me, Avery, just like they used you. The marriage, the money, all of it was a cover. I have proof. On my phone, in my apartment, in my sister's deleted voice memos. But if I come forward, they'll kill me politically. Or worse. Avery didn't hesitate. Then let's make it mutual destruction. You give me what you have and I'll give you immunity through my contacts. We don't just survive, Charlotte. We burn them down. She lets Avery in through a side entrance, dressed in sweats and no makeup, a stark contrast to the glamour she usually showed the world. Her eyes are bloodshot. She hasn't slept. They tapped my phone, Charlotte whispers. But they missed one thing. My sister sent me a backup. She knew Damien was cheating, just didn't know he was sleeping with 2 campaign donors too. Charlotte hands Avery a small digital recorder. Click, Damien's voice. Let Avery take the fall. We'll spin it into mental instability. If the press eats it, so will the donors. Then a second voice joins. Harold Collins. Use her loneliness. Say she was obsessed with Damien. People love that narrative. Unhinged woman sabotaging the golden sun. Avery stands frozen. Even Charlotte looks horrified. They were going to ruin you, frame you, discredit you, and then walk away clean. Avery clenches the recorder tight. Then, let's not let them walk away at all. Avery and Charlotte begin sending strategically timed leaks to international media outlets, federal agents, political watchdogs, and victims' advocacy groups. They don't just release the files. They craft a story. A woman used as a financial mule. A powerful family laundering millions through shell donations. A bride turned whistleblower risking her life. And a daughter reclaiming her voice. The backlash is immediate. National coverage. Hashtags. Editorials. Whistleblower heiress exposes. Patriarch's political web. Wife of fallen CEO joins forces with framed sister-in-law. Justice for Avery trending on X. But the danger? It's rising. Avery's burner phone starts ringing non-stop. Blocked numbers. Threats. One voice message. You think the storm has passed, Avery? You're just in the eye. His lawyers are shredding documents, USBs dropped into fireplaces, bank accounts being transferred offshore, but it's too late. The world has seen the blood underneath his golden empire. He calls one last meeting. 3 powerful donors. 1 federal contact. 1 lobbyist. We can flip this. We silence Charlotte. We discredit Avery. We buy the next judge. We've done it before. But this time, they're not nodding. One donor speaks. You told us she was weak. You didn't say she had half the state's skeletons in her closet. Harold's face hardens. He realizes what's happening. They're backing away. If you walk now, he growls, you're walking into the fire next. But they're already gone. Meanwhile, Avery sits alone in her apartment, eyes on the TV as breaking news scrolls. Federal task force formed to investigate Collins Foundation corruption. She should feel relief. But she doesn't. Because there's one person left who hasn't paid. Avery walks into a lawyer's office. I want to file a motion, she says. For what? To reopen my mother's estate and file a civil suit against my father for fraud, coercion, and conspiracy to defraud a minor. The lawyer looks stunned. You're going after the man who built half this city? No, Avery says. I'm going after the man who built his empire with my blood. She signs the document. Outside, rain starts to fall again, but Avery doesn't flinch. She walks into it. Because this time, it's not just revenge. It's justice.